Diego Moya-Ocampos is Principal Analyst for Country Risk in the Americas at IHS Markit, and he joins us now from London. Mr. Moya-Ocampos, welcome to the program. So the question is, will the courts allow the Maduro administration to access this bullion?
Well, the first step is to determine whether Maduro's administration has even the legitimacy to make such claim. As you're quite aware, the UK, like the US, like most EU and most Latin American countries, do not recognize his administration as legitimate following allegations of fraud in the May 2018 presidential elections. Once this is settled, then the next step would be to determine whether this gold can be or not allocated to Venezuela's central bank, which is under the control of Maduro's administration, because there is another central bank, Venezuela Central Bank Board, which is under the control of the opposition government, which is recognized by the UK and most Latin American countries.
So two questions. First of all, is the court likely to come down on the side of Maduro? And secondly, why does it come down to the court to decide? Isn't it just up to the Bank of England?
The main problem is that the Bank of England's client is the Venezuelan central bank. And there's a questioning over which is the legitimate board of that. The UK, again, like the US and most EU and Latin American countries, do not recognize Maduro as the president. They recognize Juan Guaido, the head of Venezuela's parliament, the National Assembly, as the interim constitutional president. And why? Because the National Assembly, Venezuela's parliament, is the only legitimately elected body in Venezuela. So both Guaido and Maduro, they both have appointed a different board for Venezuela's central bank. Now, the UK only recognizes Guaido as the legitimate interim constitutional president of Venezuela. And the main problem, basically, when it comes to Maduro's request is that his administration has been linked with funding of terrorist groups. For example, the ELN, which basically operates in the southern Bolivar state, is highly involved in illegal gold mining with the tolerance of top Venezuelan civilian and military officers. Mm-hmm. And also, members of Maduro's administration have been linked with drug trafficking. So, sort of like transferring that gold to Maduro's administration, given the link with drug trafficking, with terrorism funding, could pose reputational risks to the Bank of England. And the other problem is that Maduro's administration has been systematically selling gold from a Venezuela central bank, has also been extracting gold, but those funds had not been allocated to deal with the ongoing humanitarian crisis in Venezuela, but only used to sort of enrich the government elites and increase repression against the civilian population.
Now, what about this argument that the Maduro administration requires cash to fight the coronavirus pandemic? And you can kind of see that argument given the parlor state of oil revenue in Venezuela right now.
Absolutely. Oil production has been systematically declining, along with obviously oil prices. But the main problem is that the proceeds of the gold that Maduro's administration has been selling abroad has not been allocated to deal with the ongoing humanitarian crisis in the form of fuel, food, medicine shortages, or indeed to be allocated to strengthen the public health sector to deal with the coronavirus. Most of the proceeds from the sale of gold, again, have not entered Venezuelan coffers in a transparent way and have only been used to repress the civilian population. So there's questioning over Maduro's capacity and transparency in dealing with humanitarian aid. And I think that's also one of the main problems, not only in terms of legitimacy, but also in terms of the convenience to transfer those funds to that administration. Again, this administration, which is not being recognized by the UK, by most EU and most Latin American countries, and again, one which has not been transparent in managing these funds. I think a different debate would be whether those fundings would be allocated for humanitarian agencies to deal with that. That has been so far what has been going on and happening with some of the funding that has been allocating to deal with the humanitarian crisis in Venezuela, but that's not necessarily the case at the moment.
Just great to get your analysis on this, Diego Moya-Ocampos. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Always a pleasure. Cheers.